what's up, guys? I'm about to do the episode 32 of the Massive Run podcast. Welcome if you guys are new. It's actually been 2 weeks since my last podcast, so got some stuff to talk about. Definitely some fun stuff, some good stuff. I would say some pretty serious stuff since I'm coming off a tournament. So I'm just going to start and get into that. I went to play a tournament, the Southern Class Open in Florida. Not to be confused with the Southwest Class Open in Texas, or the Southwest Championship, whatever the name is. So I guess let me start with how Florida is as a state. Florida is super cool. I was a little disappointed it wasn't warmer. Like, Georgia officially got to 70 degrees this Wednesday, and it was never 70 in Florida at all, which was very disappointing. Like, it was too cold for me to go in the pool. I will only go into the pool or mess with water if it is sufficiently hot outside. And being Indian, I have high standards, and Florida did not meet those. I mean, it wasn't cold, but it wasn't hot enough. As a place, so this tournament was in Orlando. It was pretty cool. We got to walk around International Drive, who I talked to someone today about Florida, and he was like, oh my God, International Drive, I know what that is. So there's a lot of cool stuff. We ended up walking straight 10 minutes and walking back 10 minutes. Let me just get into this real quick. Tournament logistics, organizing a group of people, or what's even harder, organizing 3 to 4 different groups of people is not an easy task. Like, generally, like, I'll be friends with one main group, and then I'll have friends with 1, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 different groups. And it's like we don't get to see each other, so I'm trying to meet up with these guys. Fortunately, I got to hang out with the people that I was really looking to hang out in Florida. I don't think I missed anyone. I guess I missed James, but I see him all the time, and I already talked to him for like an hour and a half on Tuesday. So it was good that I got to hang out with everyone. Florida's a really cool place. The one annoying thing was there were these people in Mini Coopers or like random cars, and they were making hella noise on the streets, which, like, if you're going to make a lot of noise, you know, revving your engine and everything, at least have a cool car. Like, we were turning our necks to find these cars, and then when we saw them, we were like, I mean, come on. Like, it's like a little kid making a lot of noise. If it's a big bad wolf, then you're allowed to blow the house down. So that was a little unfortunate in Florida. The food is pretty good. Actually, yeah, maybe the food is kind of average. It was just good, like, white people food. Nothing crazy. But okay, I'm sure this is what you guys want to hear. Let me get into the chess part of the Florida tournament. So chess-wise, I would say it was pretty solid. I went 3.5 out of 5. I drew 3 games, and I won 2, so I went undefeated. Not quite the undefeated you're looking for. Something interesting was, like, I think after my last tournament in Texas, I was like, man, I never draw games. Like, I never get positions where they can even be draws. But this tournament was different than that, and that's just how you know. In chess, you don't really know what's going to come next. Some tournament or some stretches, you get, like, 10 games, and 6 of them are really easy games, or, like, you win in 20 moves. And sometimes you play 10 games, and, like, they're all 5-hour games. So you really don't know what you're going to expect. That's why I think it's good to go into battle or a chess game or a fight or whatever your preferred choice of competition is. Just ready for a hard-fought battle. If you win fast, you win fast. But you can't really control that. And I think that's why a good mentality to have is focus on the game. Maximize the position. Don't worry about, are you going to win fast, you're going to win slow, is this the right opening, is this, and all this other stuff. What you can control. So that's kind of just like how I'm going to start it off. Obviously details are very important, and I will get into the paranoia of details that I go into, which my friends were very skeptical about. But to kind of go through, like, the big lessons from the games, and I wrote this stuff down, and I've been doing this with all my students, and I've been telling all my friends to do it. Just start writing stuff down. You're going to internalize it way better. The big lessons I would say from this tournament are definitely being too fixated on certain ideas, and this leads to holes in calculations and missed wins. That's what really kills me, the missed wins. Because most of the time, the tactics aren't that hard that we miss. Sometimes we miss some crazy something sacrifice, something crazy happens. But the easy tactics, the easy wins, like, I almost want to, like, slap myself on the back of the neck. Like, how do you miss that? This is your life. This is what you do. You train puzzles all day. You can't be missing that kind of stuff. So I do kind of want to get into why we miss this stuff. And that goes back to my big first mistake, was just being too fixated on certain ideas. And sometimes they're tactical ideas. Like, I'm trying to make this tactic work, and if I just look to the right or look to the left, I'm going to see, wait, there's just another tactic there. Now, something you can definitely make a read on is tactics oftentimes occur when there are miscoordinated pieces on your opponent's side, or very well coordinated pieces on your side. And if you get both, it's almost like an instant tell, hey, there's a tactic here, I just gotta find it. And that, I mean, that's another thing, like finding the moves. But if you, I want this to like, and it is going to, but tie in with the next thing that I'm saying is, don't make move-based decisions. Make position-based decisions. It's like, and if you want to tie it to life, it's like short-term decisions versus long-term decisions and a proper analysis. I think a lot of times in life, we spend too much time just focusing on one problem, or that's something that's happening now, or something that's happened recent, instead of kind of taking a step back and analyzing, okay, how did I get here? What's going on? If I do this, what is going to happen next? Like a real proper analysis of what's going on. And I think this is kind of a problem with a lot of people in chess, and almost a problem with doing tactics, like doing a lot of tactics, is we end up just calculating moves and being like, okay, this should work. Oh, it doesn't work. Next move. This should work. Oh, it doesn't work. Next move. And then going in circles, coming back to the same move and be like, well, nothing works. Let me come back to the same move and calculate it again and again, and just going in almost infinite loops. I think the proper way to do it is really analyze what is going on here. What are the strengths of my position? What are the weaknesses of my position? What are the long-term strengths, pawn structure-wise, piece-wise? And timing will come into play once you figure out all those things. Generally, if you can keep maximizing a position, a tactic is almost waiting for you at the end. Because I think I guess I already said this, but if you maximize the position, you will make the best moves. If you understand the position, you will make the best moves. And that is why grandmasters a lot of times can play new openings, no problem, because they play good chess. So there's no opening trap going to work against good fundamentals. Every once in a while you get an exception to this rule, but for the most part, fundamentals, good quality chess, good analysis will produce good moves. And I can definitely kind of attest to that. Now, the next thing I will say was a problem from this tournament was playing openings unprofessionally. And this is kind of a tough part about playing so many different openings and being versatile. You lose depth in certain positions. And of course, before this tournament, I really studied the French, and I really studied my black openings against d4. And of course, I never got the variations that I was looking at. And this is why it's important to be well versed in everything. Like, really know your repertoire heart to heart. And this is why I plan on buying some books and going through some books, because I feel like those guys understand openings really well. And even if I understand an opening really well, still reading a book is good, because then I get other thoughts. And if I see a hole in their calculation, or I disagree, at least I can see what the other side, or what someone with a similar analysis or similar strength is looking at and considering, and just get a better holistic view of the opening. So like every game I played was like different kind of weird openings. Like we had a bird, it had a benko, I had a hippo, like just a bunch of different stuff. And I just feel like I want to be better prepared, because this section was above 2200, so there's some 2100s playing, but like these guys aren't going to fold over, especially if you don't play the opening well. Now you're in for a long fought battle. If you really want to get these quicker finishes, these knockouts, these 20 move games, you got to know your opening super well, and then you got to also take them out of like their comfort zone. That's when you get kind of a fast knockout. And for here, I never really got to take someone out of the comfort zone. All these games were almost battles from behind. Actually, I would say, except for round 4, every game, white or black, I started out maybe slightly worse or equal, and then at some point, some of these games, I was actually worse. And I had to claw back, fight back, be patient, and find a way to win. So it would be very nice having a nice head start in the game, and that's something that I'm going to work on a lot. And I really like the fact that I'm writing this down, because this I have a tournament in 2 weeks. These 3 things are what I'm going to focus on top of everything else. And you're going to see this with a lot of chess players, especially once you're above 2000. You've been playing chess for a long time. Like, I have a very large and vast chess knowledge base, but I'm not grandmaster. And I think what's separating, at least me, maybe other people, is just these mental battles, these mental mistakes, these mental things you need to fix. And ironically, I think when you fix these things, and I've seen even some progress in myself, as I fix these things in chess, I will fix these mistakes in life. Because you're conscious about it, and you're not making the mistakes on the board, and that mindset that prevents you from making mistakes on the board should translate to the same mindset when you make those mistakes in life and accomplishing or overcoming those mistakes. And this leads really well to the last point that I wanted to make about this tournament is mental battles during the game. And this isn't like what should I have for dinner, or like my go-to example, my girlfriend broke up with me, like things like that. I'm not talking about these mental battles so much. It's more the urge to like get up and walk around. The urge to be like, I think this move works, I'm not going to fully calculate it. The urge to be like, I can play whatever in the opening, I'll just find a way to win later on. If you have these mindsets, short term, they're great. You get to have fun, you get to walk around, look at your opponent, your friends' games, other opponents' games. You get to play faster, which is such a trap. But long term, it's going to be a problem. It's going to catch up to you. And this is how we have holes in our calculation. This is how we get in time pressure. This is how we end up with a position where, like, out of the opening, where we're like, how did I get here? These are all avoidable problems, and the solution is so easy, but the temptation is so constant throughout the game. Like, I mean, one of my favorite ones is wanting to get up when my opponent's taking a lot of time. Like, we lie to ourselves a lot and tell ourselves, I understand the position, I can do whatever. And then what do you know? Your opponent makes a move, and it's a move you didn't see. And it's like, dude, like, there's only so many moves. I have a good position. I'm up on time. How am I missing moves that he's going to make? So, kind of unexcusable. And I think that's what differentiates professionals to casuals to experts to whatever. Just the level of preciseness of the highest level is what makes them so good. So, those have kind of been the things I took away from this Florida tournament. A couple other things that I want to talk about. I'm going to say Parmesan, but honestly, I'm like really bad at saying Indian names. I'm sorry. But this Grandmaster, last name Negi, super strong Grandmaster, 2600, has a bunch of books on openings. That's a market that I'm going to explore. A friend of mine actually went ahead and transcribed the books into ChessBase. So I'm going to hit him up probably tomorrow. I'll explain why it took so long in a sec. But going through these books to get openings down is what I really want to do, and I definitely recommend these books. Now, I did end up getting third place. I won $350, which is solid. I mean, it pays for the trip pretty much. But this always happens to me. Like, after a tournament, I take this mini vacation, and it starts Monday, and then it kind of keeps going sometimes. And it's not like I'm like out here wilding. I mean, it's like Wednesday to Thursday. Like, what are you gonna do, right? But it's just, I think, being lazy. It's just being like, well, I just played a tournament, so I'm gonna, relax and have fun, which is a really bad lie to tell yourself, especially when you have a tournament in 2 weeks or a month or pretty much at any point. I'm all for taking a vacation, maybe 1 day off, 2 days off, or if you accomplish something really great, then you can take more days off. The problem is I'm celebrating this third place finish like I won the World Open, which are two completely different things. And speaking of, I have a big summer coming up, so every day, every hour, every training session matters a lot. Because this summer, I really, really want to hit hard. I want to do it right, I want to do it proper, and I want to walk away a Grandmaster. That is my goal. I'm not going to be like, well, I hope I make Grandmaster, I hope I make International Master. Nah, like, my goal, I'm clear, I'm cut. At the end of the summer, I want to be Grandmaster. I'm not even going to say very close. I want to be Grandmaster. There is a clear vision here. And that means there has to be clear habits and work ethics and things that will make this happen, which is what my vacation and my post vacation is all about. Now some interesting things about chess before I go on to students, which honestly has been great. Choosing openings based of archetypes. I think this is a new concept to some people, so I think it's worth talking and explaining and kind of describing. Let me give you an example. A couple archetypes in chess. You have young Asian kid. You have older Russian guy. And I wouldn't say girls is so much an archetype, but what openings people play tells you a lot of information about someone. So let me start with the first archetype. Little Asian kid or little Indian kid or little Russian kid, maybe 8 to 12 years old. Rating is like, for me, we can say like 22, 23, 24, 2500. You just want to frame it in whatever case you're looking at. If you're 1700, you're playing a 1300, 1400 Asian kid, or you're playing higher, which that'll be the last archetype I go through. But if you're playing someone young, generally they have a lot of energy. There's a brashness to their chess. They're going to be tactically sharp. In general, they're just going to be pretty sharp. Now, some strengths of this archetype is they're going to play fast. They're going to attack you. And generally, they're going to play pretty aggressive openings. But what they're going to lack is experience in the opening, experience in the endgame, and I would say some lack of experience in decision making. Like I said, there's going to be some more brashness to it. So you want to cater the game, the match plan, the game script, what you want to happen, to be the worst case scenario for your opponent. Now, if you're a super tactical player and you have no endgame understanding, then you don't really have this option. But if you can choose between styles of, do I play fast, do I play slow, and I mean like positionally or tactically, you want to kind of like take the energy out of this young tactician. You want to maybe trade queens early. You want to keep the position more closed, more slow. Because also another weakness of this archetype is patience a lot of times. Like these people are, and it's funny because I'm describing me as a kid and probably me like a year ago. And not saying that I've grown that much, but I've definitely recognized it and been able to control the pace more when I play. But if you're playing someone very tactical, then for sure try to avoid getting into these tactical firefights. That's where they thrive naturally. Now, if you're playing an older person, someone who wants to play much slower, wants to avoid theory because they've been playing chess so long, openings you're going to see for these type of people are like King's Indian attack, London system, Knight of 3, G3, E4, E5. These are more slow-paced games. What you want to do with these people is generally you want to try to light them up. You want to push a fast pace. You want to be attacking. You want to be moving your pieces towards them. One thing that I see with these people is a lot of times they make concessions, not tactically. We're assuming in a perfect world that these guys are not missing tactics. Missing tactics, then you can win. You can win whatever. But let's say they're not missing tactics. These people will give you a lot of space. They're going to give you more space because they're trying to play kind of counterpunching more solid. Now, you don't want to overextend space because that's what they want. They want you to overextend, and then it makes it easier for them to counter you. What you want to do is just kind of, I wouldn't even say like super slowly take space, but just control more of the board, almost like an army. You want to think siege warfare. Move forward, move forward, move forward. They make a mistake, they make an opening, they miss a calculation, that's when you knock them out. That is the slower pace kind of player. Now, the openings that kind of correlate with these people is tactical attacking players. They're going to play E4 as white. They're going to play C5 as black. I think E5 can be pretty tactical too. Another thing you'll see though is like perk, like D6, a lot of fianchettos. And if you're playing D4, slower players are going to play Slav, QGD. QGD can actually kind of go both ways. But Slav, what's another one? Tarrasch, like E6, D5, C5. Stuff where everything kind of gets just liquidated and solid. Attacking people are going to play King's Indian. They're going to play Dutch. They're going to play Benko. They're going to play Benoni. So once you kind of see the opening choice your opponent makes, and then you can start lining up their mannerisms, how they look, the age they are, the race they are, almost like, do they have fire in their eyes, or do the eyes seem kind of like chill and laid back, almost dull? Those are things you want to think about when you're choosing the pace of the game, the style of the game, or the style that you want the game to be, the decisions you want to put your opponent in front of. So these are kind of things that I think about when thinking about archetypes. This mindset I got a lot from poker. A good friend of mine who's very good at poker said most of the time you want to play the table and the cards less, because the cards are the cards. There are a lot of luck involved. I mean, definitely a lot of percentages. If you have a good hand, you have a good hand. But you can start kind of reading people and seeing, okay, when they do this, they do this. When they do that, they do that. When they fold, this is what happens. If you re-raise them, if you almost max bet them, they're going to fold, or they're always going to call. It goes both ways. You just want to start getting reads and knowing, like, okay, I've seen him act in this situation. Now let me take advantage of it. Now, another way this is very useful is in boxing or just MMA, fighting in general. If you see that this person, every time you throw a jab, they duck right, you're going to land that right kick. It just reads like that. And it sounds paranoid, it sounds over excessively analyzing, but any information you can get, any positive information that is going to lead to a potential way of winning is more information. Do what you will with it, ignore it, at least be conscious of it. That way you can start connecting dots. And there are a lot of fighters like this who, like, they'll start out slow, kind of just see what you're doing, and then round 3, round 4, round 5, if it's boxing, they're going to really push the pace and try to capitalize on these reads. So that's archetypes. I did play a friend the last game, and I'm not going to say so much that it was progress from the last one when I played a friend. It was, I mean, once again, pretty annoying having to drive all the way there, play someone, drive all the way back. But I mean, I was just, during the game, at some point I just had this realization, dude, just be good at chess. Like, all these problems can be solved by just being good at chess, playing the best chess. Already, you should play irrespective of your opponent, just the best moves. And you should try to factor in, like, okay, I know my opponent, this is what he's going to be good at, this is what he's going to be bad at. And that is actually the inherent advantage of playing friends. You have so much information that you can almost make like a 99% accurate decision. The other problem is they also have a lot of information on you. So that's when a real interesting chess game is underway, when there's so much information involved, and every move you're trying to think, do I want to take it this way? Do I want him to take it this way? Does he want me to take it this way? And that's where it gets very complicated. And I would just say you focus on the board. And I think kind of a nice gesture after is whoever wins, buy the other person food, buy them dinner, buy them lunch. Like, I mean, we're friends. We don't want to play, but at least let's help the person that's having a tougher day, right? So that was something that I took away from this. Like, after the game, we had dinner, paid for dinner. We traveled back. It was no problem. Once again, still very annoying, but at least it's been handled more maturely than the other one. Not that I freaked out or anything. It was more just I was depressed. But you see it coming. You know what's at stake. Just play some chess is all I can say. Traveling with friends, though, I will say was amazing. It was great. We drove down, 3 guys back, 3 guys, 1 girl. 3 guys there, 3 guys, 1 girl on the way back. The conversation's always great. You really get to know these people, and if they're your friends, hopefully you still like them at the end of it. And I will say that I do. I had a very good time, and I recommend it. I recommend it for everyone. Just, if you can, travel with your friends. Yeah, playing them sucks, but you get a lot of benefits out of it too. Okay, I kind of talked about controlling what you want to control. Don't worry about the rest. The idea there is you can control going to bed on time. You can control being on time. You can control not wasting time for the most part. Do that, because when it gets crazy, when there's a bunch of pieces flying, when there's a million variations, a lot of that, I would say, or more of that, is out of your control. Or what opening your opponent plays because of this, because of that, more out of your control. That's why I think preparation is just so important, and also just being calm, being chill, just relaxing. So that will wrap up my chess segment of the podcast. Next, I'm going to talk about my students who've all been doing super phenomenal, and it's honestly going to be a real fun segment, at least for this episode. Okay, so this is actually one of the best parts about the tournament. after the last round, we're all having dinner, and I start getting texts about one student. This guy, he started out 733 about a month ago, and he has won 9 games in a row, 4 of which were unrated for a team championship for his school, which he won all his games. But this guy has gone from 733 to 1250 in 2 tournaments. That is over 500 points gained, which is just literally insane. Like I told his mom this, like I've never seen this before. Like I mean, definitely I've seen students do really well in the beginning or like have a huge spike, but 500 points is insane. And his mom was so excited. She called me, and I would be excited too. And I will say, like someone like this, and he's still pretty young. He's like 8 or 9, but I would really like to make this kid GM if he can get that good so fast. If he's, I mean, he's pretty much 100% in at this point. Like they were kind of doing taekwondo, doing chess too, and his mom was like, "All right, we're trying to cut taekwondo. Like we want to see this kid as good as possible in chess." And I'm like, "Yeah, sign me up. Like if I can raise a GM, that would make me so happy." And hopefully one day this kid never beats me, but I will root for this kid to make GM. Now, another adult texts me. This guy, under 1400, has been stuck at 1200 for a really, really long time. He ended up winning his tournament. He won 4.5 out of 5. The guy hasn't rated the tournament yet, which is a little unfortunate, but he's going to gain at least 100 points. And, I mean, this guy's been stuck for a really, really long time. And, boom, he finally got his spike. And, I mean, he even told me, like, I'm going to have fun today, celebrate tomorrow, and then back to work. And I was like, yeah, back to work. Let's keep going, because right now he's at like 1250. He gained like 100 points, maybe 150. Let's say he got to 1400. His goal at the end of the year is 1800. And during the lesson, this past lesson, he was like, should I change my goal to 1900? And I was like, nah, man, let's just keep it 1800, because we still got a long way to go. And I'm not gonna say it gets any easier from here. So if you get 1800, I mean, go to the Bahamas or something. Let's try to get 1900 after, or whenever it's there. But right now, he's trying to gain 500 points this year, and let's do that first. So that was really cool. And then on top of that, another student texted me, "Hey, I gained 100 points." Another student texted me, "Hey, I gained 100 points." So I had 4 people Sunday evening tell me, "Hey, I gained 100 points." I mean, one of them was 250. One of them was probably like 150, and this guy won money. So tournament I was kind of happy about, but the students just crushing it, killing it. I mean, it's almost like winning a tournament myself. So that was super cool. Now, what are these guys doing? The guys who are doing really well, who are gaining 100 points, 200 points, they are filling their spreadsheets. They are making sure they practice. They are doing what they're supposed to do, and they are getting the results. And something that kind of like makes me mad now I get madder at my students who aren't doing results or who aren't doing what they're supposed to, who aren't doing their training, who aren't marking their spreadsheet, because I'm looking at the guys crushing it, and I'm like, look, if you just do what you're supposed to do, you will improve. I can prove that. I have proof of this. And I'm not asking a lot on a weekly basis, so I really require my students to do the bare minimum. And I mean, this is a good thing to segue into, but the people who have been struggling more have been the adult students, because I can't really lay the hammer on them like I'm laying on the kids. Like the kids, if they don't practice, I'm telling them, hey, I will not, if you didn't practice and finish what you're supposed to, I will come here next week, see you haven't practiced, and leave immediately. I'm not wasting my time if you're not going to spend your time. You're wasting your parents' time, and you're wasting their money, and you're wasting my time. You want to be good? That's why that's why I'm teaching you. That's what you signed up for. I'm going to make you good. If you can't take it, then unfortunately you're going to have to find a new coach, because I want to keep moving forward. And something I've realized is I don't really care if you're 500 or you're 1500 or you're 2500. All I care about is, are you putting in the work, and are we fixing the mistakes? If we keep doing that, you will get better. Like, for sure. Just stop making the same mistakes and keep improving. I'll feed your openings. I'll tell you what to do in certain places, but you gotta internalize it. And The only way to really internalize lessons, internalize improvement or see improvement is to actually play games, play in tournaments, and write stuff down. I'm going to say this a million times. Write stuff down. It's the best thing ever. That might be the new episode title. Write stuff down. You start doing that, you start becoming very conscious of what's going on. And the first step to change is kind of realizing you need change. If you're writing stuff down, you're very conscious of it, and I think you're going to internalize it better. So that's why I've been a bit more strict this week after such a successful last weekend for my students. And another thing that I've seen with my students is they'll do like 2.5 days. They'll do like 2 days and miss one game. They'll do like 2 days and miss that day of puzzles. And that is the next step of me cracking down. And I feel like it's an internal thing, or it's like, I don't know if it's like something natural for kids to do, but they kind of challenge the boundaries to see if you actually mean it. Like I had a kid today, and I had to like start the lesson 15, 20 minutes late because I was coming back from somewhere. And we start the lesson, and the guy is like, hey, I haven't finished my games. And I was like, dude, we started 20 minutes late. What were you sitting around doing? You could have played a game then and been good to go. That would have been exactly what you should do. And I told him, and I'm going to have to tell more people this next week, if you're a day short, you're short. We're not doing a lesson. I want to hold you to the highest standard. That will teach you to hold yourself to the highest standard. Then you're going to hold your chest to a high standard. And then we're going to start getting wins. We're going to get wins. We're going to get rating. You're going to get money. Like, it's a win-win, right? And I think that's where an important role as a coach, as a mentor, as a teacher is. Like, make them stick to what they say that they're going to do. Don't let them off the hook, even if it's a tiny bit. Hold them to that standard, because they will see that you hold them to that standard, and they will start holding themselves to that standard. It's almost my job to be accountable for them. That way they learn to be accountable. And it kind of starts with me or your teacher first. If they do it, they will learn. If I do it, they will learn. So that's something I'm learning. Once again, I have to say this, like, there's no book on how to be a coach. Maybe there's a basketball coach book or a football coach book. But of a lot of it starts, you kind of start amateur. You just like teach some people. You see, okay, this is kind of working. And then you keep doing that, be more and more professional. And like a good example of this is head coaches of football teams. Those men are holding this like a business, this is what, like, this matters. Like, this is a very important. Everything we do matters. Like, we have to take this very seriously. And that's why you see there's so much staff. There's so many other people. There's like sports psychologists. Like, they do a lot of things because they have a high standard. They want to be the best team. And everyone else out here that you're playing, that you're competing against, has a coach. Maybe not has a coach, but a lot of them have coaches, or they're working. And as you get better and better, you're going to play people who are working harder and harder, who are using more resources to get better. And that is why just maximizing efficiency, being 100% is very, very important. Actually, another story that I want to say is a friend of mine. She was staying at my place, and we looked over the games she played. And there was one really big theme that we saw, or that I pointed out. Push your pawns faster, good things will happen. Whether it was the end game, whether it was when attacking, she would set up good attacks, she would have good end games. You just got to push the pawns. And if you push the pawn, you're going to win. And she played a blitz tournament on Monday, and she, once again, got positions where push the pawns to attack, push the pawns to the end game, and good things will happen. She did that in the blitz tournament. She won the blitz tournament. So it's really crazy to see, like, one small fix, one sentence of advice can really alter games from losses to wins or draws to wins. So I think it's good to have a good coach. It's good to learn. I did tell her to write it down. I don't know if she did. But she did hit me up a couple days later and like, hey, I'm going to analyze the rest of my games, because she saw how fruitful it was when I analyzed with her and showed her, like, hey, do this and you'll start winning. And then she did it and she started winning. So it goes to show, like, very little fixes can make very big differences. But that's why you got to write stuff down and be conscious of it. That's how you will be aware that this will actually make a difference. Now, I want to talk about like 2 or 3 more things before I move on to the next section. So planning ahead is 100% the best move. This might be this is actually the first hotel I booked in a while, because I always stay with friends and they get free hotel, or they're the ones to book first. So I got to, like, my friends, they came and they booked it there. They got the last room, thank God. But if we both came and not booked, we would have been in a perplexing situation, to say the least. Then another thing is planning ahead. I canceled my lessons like a week before, which is still kind of late, but it was like the Monday. It wasn't like I waited till Friday to be like, hey, I'm not going to be here. Saturday morning, hey, I'm not going to be here. It was like, hey, I have a tournament. I'm planning ahead. I know I'm not going to be here this weekend. Boom, go for it. Or like, we'll pick up next week. Now, one thing that is going to happen this weekend or next week is whenever I go out of town, like, my students, I'm not going to say slack off, but they're going to definitely, like, more relaxed about everything. They're like, all right, he's fine. He's out of town, blah, blah, blah. Like, we'll be okay. And the problem is it shows on my spreadsheet too. Like, I felt like when these guys, we all fill out a spreadsheet together, and we can all see what everyone's doing. And the weekend of the tournament, I booked chess tournament. So I'm playing a tournament. But my 3 vacation days after, they saw I wasn't doing anything, and I definitely saw more empty space on the spreadsheet than I'm used to. Today I got back into it. I did my training for the day, and miraculously or magically, I saw a bunch of people start doing their training today. So accountability does start at the top, and that's kind of why I like doing it too, because my students are keeping me accountable. So very nice that it goes both ways, and it's also very important that just because you're on vacation, just because you're at a tournament, don't miss your 30 minutes of trading. You're just going to pay for it later. And if you have the time, and I'm pretty sure 99.99% of the people have 30 minutes in a day they can take out, finish their training, and record. Like, if you're Elon Musk and you tell me that you don't have time, I believe you. And at the same time, I believe that Elon Musk would still find a way to make time if he committed to something. So no more of this, I don't have enough time. It's about priorities, and it's about having standards. If you have high standards for yourself, you will get your training done. So I'm back on the training cycle. I ran today, worked out today, and I even put in the rest of my games. And I still have to do some analysis, but the big lessons that I talked about in the chess section, I mean, they're true, and they came from the games and analyzing them. And I really think they will help me in the next set of games. So that's pretty much it for the student section. Now, I guess the thing I want to close with the student section, maybe a little bit of EAV as well. But if you're practicing a lot of chess, if you're actually training 3 days a week, find a tournament. After 2 weeks, you're pretty much ready. Because after 2 weeks of training 3 days a week, you're pretty much practicing more than 99% of your competition. That's the sad part of it. Because, I mean, I've taught chess for a long time. And when I was not as good of a coach earlier on, my students were probably practicing once, twice a week, a month. Like, no one was really on them, and I just, like, do stuff during lesson. And if that's me, and even then, I would think I would still consider myself one of the best coaches in Atlanta. Like, none of the competition is going to be practicing that hard. You will get a couple kids here and there who they love chess, and they will just keep practicing chess. But for the most part, a lot of kids are spending a lot of time not doing chess, doing a lot of other things. And to their defense, to play devil's advocate, I do think it's harder being a kid nowadays. I think there's a lot more stuff to do, a lot more distractions. You got phones, you got internet, you got TikTok, you got Instagram, you got all this other stuff. But you got to keep your training first. You got to make sure you just got to make sure you finish it. Whatever you want to do after, go for it. Do what you got to do, but make sure you put in that training, and you'll get better. I promise you. So now, actually, last thing I want to close with is, like, for student section, is just running tournaments. I've been running tournaments Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and one big one on Saturdays. We're trying to expand that. Right now, this is a good base. Just Tuesday, Wednesday, and major tournament. Provides a lot of my students places to play. They can play pretty much every week if they really want to. For some people, it is a far drive, But tournaments are in 2 locations, one more up north, one more up south. So pretty much if you want to play, you can play. So I think that's really great. I talked about this a little bit before when I said I wanted to help one of my students get I want to help all my students get grandmasters, but every once in a while you have a student and you see that potential. So I really want to get this kid grandmaster. But also with organizing tournaments in Atlanta, running stuff, doing more stuff, I want to get more grandmasters out of Atlanta. More 22, 23, 24, 2500s. Because right now it seems like there's kind of a lull. There's a couple up-and-coming kids, but I wouldn't say there's many like middle schoolers or high schoolers who can really push for grandmaster. There's a kid, Ethan, who I think can make a push, but and Andrew too, of course. Like, I'm not gonna forget Andrew, but for the most part, 3, 4, maybe 5 tops kids who are really actively pursuing chess, I think that should be way higher, and that's going to be really good for the community. Because at the top sections, like, a lot of these guys are looking for other people to play. They're playing the same people again and again and again. If you want to get more high-rated people, yeah, okay, sometimes a guy can move in, 2 guys can move in, maybe 3 guys can move to the state of Georgia. You can get stronger. But really where the strength is going to come is just having better homegrown talent. So having all these events, raising the standard for my students, raising the standards for chess in Atlanta, I really want to see this grow into something bigger and more. And with this East Atlanta Chess Club, I think that can really happen. Like, it really felt like a dream come true when Carter told me about, hey, we have these people trying to run tournaments. Like, they're all about it. They want to support you. Apparently, we got a bunch of sponsors or people who want to sponsor. We just have to move forward on those steps. And it's really exciting to see, like, where this can go. I'm really trying to stay patient, even though I'm very excited. And we'll see where it can go. Like, once again, this is just the beginning of my students raising the standard, tournaments happening 3 times a week. So give it 6 months, give it a year, and long term, it's really, like, unimaginable what can be accomplished. Though I think unimaginable is a negative way to say it. Let's just leave it at the future is very bright. All right, so now I'm going to get into the stand-up comedy part of the podcast. So I did open mic Monday, and Monday was actually super cool because it seemed like it was like a group of like 10 to 20 people, but it seemed like we were all just homies. Like, we were all just like talking. The crowd was kind of involved, not too involved, but like they were very like into it. And like we got this running joke guy. There's always one super drunk guy who just like wants to be part of every set. I forgot what his name was the last time I was here. It was a really good name, like Tommy or something like that. But there was, of course, another guy there on Monday who was just like, maybe he wasn't even drunk. He's just like a tweaker. But that was really cool. Like, and the set I've been doing has been getting better and better. Like, pretty much guaranteed laughs. And pretty much the other good thing is I'm guaranteed remembering everything. Like, I've gotten way better at, knock on wood, but way better at remembering my lines and not forgetting or freezing up. Or even if I am, I'm really rolling with it. It's like maybe a 1 second pause instead of a 5 to 10 second pause plus some random words that only make things worse. So that has been definitely an improvement. And I do have some clips from Monday that I'm going to try to put up, but also some new material that I'm trying to do for Friday. And this is why I like recording my sets so much. Like, I can rewatch the sets and kind of see where it's like it feels kind of dull or feels kind of like dragging. Like, even if you're trying to set up a punchline, you're trying to work towards it, so you have to use a couple lines. Take out whatever you can is my real takeaway, and leave whatever's good. Like, and I think that's why like the top people are so good. Yeah, of course they're naturally funny, but there's no fat in their material and in what they write. It's very like boom and then bang, boom boom and then bang. Like, they're hitting their punchlines, they're hitting it fast, efficiently, and not like they're talking fast or getting there fast. It's just everything they say up to that point is necessary. There's no like, all right, my mind's starting to wander because I'm not really sure where they're going with this, or I'm not really interested. It's very like fast paced and efficient. I mean, probably efficient is the best word I would say to describe it. So for the set Friday that I'm gonna do tonight or yesterday or whatever when people listen to this, I'm gonna go through the stuff that I said, the stuff that I know works, the stuff that I listened to and felt was dragging. I'm gonna take that out, and then I'm also gonna try to improve what I already have. That way, it gets sharper and sharper. So, so I think that's very important. And another thing that I think goes along with this, and pretty much will answer the question, do I need this, is what I'm saying make sense? Like, there's some stuff that I talk about, I'm just like, why am I saying this? Why am I adding this in? Like, I can, especially when you see it, it really makes sense. Like, when you're writing it, when you're practicing it, in your head, you're like, okay, I think this is going to be funny. And then you go say it. Now you know whether it's funny or not. Now, sometimes you got to do it a couple times to figure out, was it the crowd? Was it the material? Was it the way I'm saying it? So I think that's very important. But also, like, you start getting this intuition where you're like, dude, I don't need to say that. Let me just take that out. And I guess I've been doing this for pretty much a year now, which is pretty insane to say. But I can start seeing, like, okay, dude, I don't need to say that. Take that out. I don't need to say this. Take this out. Or I can improve this, work on this. That's another kind of aspect to it. When you know something's there, you know the idea is funny, you just got to find the right wording for it or the right move order for it. And this all comes from chess. Just do I put this here? Do I put this second? Do I put this third? Let me try it this way. Let me try it that way. And then eventually you get the winning combination and boom, voila, you have a tactic. So I think definitely keeping these more efficient and writing, rewriting, editing, cutting, all this stuff is very important. Now, another thing that I think is cool that I've seen from doing stand-up is I've definitely picked up some things from my peers. I don't think I've picked up any bad habits, I would say, but the good ones I want to talk about are these. So the first one, and for all the comedians that I talk to, I don't know if their name is Michael, David, or Alex. It's some combination of those three. Actually, I know this guy because his last name is Worse, and then they say Michael Worse. So shout out to Michael. But whenever like a punchline of his doesn't land, it's not like complete silence. Like he'll say like, "Ooh, not that one," or "I guess not here." Like just a small tag like there, and then you segue to the next thing. You get some laughs, and it also keeps the energy going. Like if there's just like silence for 5-10 seconds, it's gonna deflate and take the energy away. Also, it's gonna make people lose interest because they're like, all right, well, I don't know what's so happening. I'm gone. But if you can roll with it, it's almost like if you get punched and you roll with the punch, it doesn't hurt as much. But if you get punched flat and you're just standing there, now it's gonna hurt a lot more. You don't got momentum with you. So rolling with the missed punchlines makes the set a lot better. And that's something that watching the video, I've been doing much better. Just like, okay, next thing. Okay, next thing. Keep going, keep going. Just keep the energy levels. Keep the pace of the set. Another thing that I've seen is like, and you can see this from like the beginning videos, is I used to pace back and forth. I would turn my back to the crowd. I'd be like jumping up and down. You could see the nervous energy all over me. And then I saw this one guy, and I guess I can say his name, Ugan. Shout out Ugan. But like sometimes it's not even the way his punchlines and stuff. It's the way he talks. He always stands up straight, and he kind of like shows his hand out like he's explaining something, and it's very like taking a lot of space, showing a lot of confidence, showing a lot of energy, and just this stance has helped a lot. And I've seen it when I watch my stand-up. I do this a lot. I kind of take this stance of just like staying still. I still rock a lot, like rock back and forth, or like shift weights from one leg to the other, and I think that's going to happen at some point. I want to be able to do it purposely, not unintentionally. Where if I'm going to shift, it's probably going to be where a punchline is or where I'm going to change topics. There needs to be some kind of correlation for the movements with the words. But right now, I'm just trying to like stand still. And I think at some point, walking back and forth, pacing is also good if it complements the material that you're talking about, or it complements the energy of the words you're saying. But what I've worked on and picked up from this guy is just kind of standing straight and using your hands almost instead of your legs. Like instead of your legs moving, you can kind of wave your hands back and forth, or like, I don't even know the word to say this, but it's like circling your hands. I mean, if you do it, you understand. It's like all your fingers out. You're like your hands straight, and you're just kind of putting like you're explaining something to them. Like you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this. Like your hand keeps moving. That's a better way to move than with the feet shifting. Because even feet shifting, when I watch, it seems nervous. It seems like I have nervous energy, and I want to get rid of that. So that's another cool thing that I got from one of my friends. Another guy he explained this to me, and I kind of already knew this. I was just kind of complaining. But the spot in the set doesn't matter so much. Like, if you go first, anywhere 1 through 9, I think is okay. And this is going to segue perfectly into the next section. But going first is something you need to do and something you need to get good at. Also, going third, right before the headliner, or right before the feature act, or right after. These are all things that, now that I've been doing this for a while, I need to start attacking these things, not shying away or like avoiding them, or like showing up late just so I don't have to go after this person or first or whatever. Like attacking the spots, not fearing them, just being like, all right, I gotta do my set, I gotta be good at what I do, and if I do that, the spot don't matter. If anything, I save time. And this is gonna tie in perfectly with the next thing that I want to talk about. There was a Friday open mic, and the reason why I got there kind of late, so it starts at the list drops at 10:30, and I had chess lessons from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. So I finished at 10. I go right over. I didn't even like mess around or like give it too much time. I got there at like, it's a 10-minute drive, so I did mess around a little bit. But I got there like 10:25 after parking and circling in the parking lot for like 10 minutes. I got there like 10:25, and I go to the list, and the list is not only just full, it is 25, or it's like 20 people deep, and I'm number 22. Dude, I don't know, like, I think a show you can last 2 hours, 3 hours, but an open mic for 22 people, and here's the other thing. I don't know if there's like some politics, or they don't like me, or they like other people, which is probably the bigger thing. They know other people, so people walk in, and then since they know them, they get a spot before me. Another person walks in, they get a spot before me. Like next thing you knew, the show started at 11. It was 2 a.m. And the funniest part is I think I was next, but I was just so done with it. I was like, dude, I'm tired. I'm sleepy. I've been here for 3 hours. A lot of 3 hours were not the best too. Like, it's an open mic. Like, some of these people, like, either the comedy doesn't hit, or like maybe they're not the best, or maybe I'm just in a bad mood, which doesn't help. But yeah, going that late, I can't do it. If I'm gonna go anywhere above, I'm gonna say even 12, I might just go home. And the way to avoid this is obviously go very early, and probably an hour early is the number that I'm looking for, or maybe 30 minutes. I just don't want to have to take that risk of going super late and not getting anything. So definitely go early. For some reason, there's a lot more demand recently for stand-up comedy, so it's very important to go early. Otherwise, you're gonna end up 3 hours later on the list, and by then, you're just so done with it. You're just like, I'm ready to go to bed. Now, one thing I will say with going to all these open mics is I'm seeing my peers and the friends of mine get a lot better. Like, a lot better. Like, there was this one guy who was, like, really kind of struggling, and at some point he told the crowd to F off because he was, like, kind of frustrated. And then I saw him this past Monday, and he's actually hosting the mic, and he crushed. And every kind of, like, he was the MC. So all the things that he said in between were also great, too. So somehow, like, somewhere this guy really hit his stride, and it's really cool to see because I was seeing him struggling. And now that I see him doing well, boom, I'm just so happy for him because I know how hard it is. And one thing that I will say, and I will see, is if you're struggling and you see someone else getting better, you're not going to be as happy about it. You're going to be kind of almost, it's like you're mad at yourself because you're not getting better, and you almost take it out on the other person because they are getting better. So the solution there is get better. If you keep getting better, even if it's a little bit, even if it's slowly, you're not going to be as insecure, and you're going to get more motivation from seeing people get better, and you're going to learn more. Because when you see people get better fast, like, I always have questions for these guys, like, what are you doing here, or like, how are you doing this, or like, what happened? And then boom, now I have this information, and I'm going to get better. So I mean, that's the goal. So, one, if you feel like you're getting stuck, try to figure out why. Don't take it on other people, and for sure, don't take it on the crowd. Taking on the crowd is a recipe for disaster and for having a tough night when you go home and you look yourself in the mirror. And then when you see people getting better, ask them. Just like, because people don't like general questions. People like specific questions. If you ask me how to get better at comedy, I'll be like, well, practice, do better, something like this. But if you ask me like, should I stand like this or should I pace like this, then I can be a bit more specific, and then it's interesting too. I can talk about a refined opinion that I have, and okay, like once again, I'm not trying to use me as an example. You can ask someone actually good or very good, and they will give you a more refined opinion because it's probably something that they thought about, they worked on, and they've mastered or improved at. So ask questions, but don't just ask specific questions. Just try to be as specific, not like to the millisecond specific, but just like more like specific topics. That way, like it's a more fruitful conversation rather than telling that. Like people ask me how to get good at chess, and I've been asked this question like a million times. So now I have a copy paste answer: practice, work hard, do more puzzles, get a coach. But if you ask me like, in the Nightorf, what do you think about the Sozin after early b5? I'd be like, dude, I looked at this line a lot. It's like practically good, but if your opponent's accurate, they're gonna have a good position, and you have to find all the sacrifices to kind of have a good position, or to knock them out. And then if you can actually talk moves with me or specific variations, now we're really talking. Because now I'm learning and I'm practicing, which is 100% a win-win. So that is the stand-up part of the podcast. I think pretty good week. I mean, Monday was great. Recorded it, went up, had fun. Even ad-libbed the beginning. But now that I'm back in Atlanta, I'll be hitting him probably every Monday and Friday. Those are going to be my days to like do stand-up with this new schedule. All right. So 2 more topics. Jiu-Jitsu, boxing should be short, and then we got life. All right, so now for the jiu-jitsu and boxing part of the podcast. So I just got back to training. Like, if you all got this far, you know I was on my very, very vacation week, and now I'm paying for it. I ran today, biked today, worked out today, and honestly, it wasn't that bad. But what I'm really regretting is going to the gym Friday. I think it's sparring day too, so I have to go right into sparring, which you just gotta take it slow and not get dinged up. Like my opening joke for stand-up is, I like boxing because after I'm just happy to be alive, and it's I'm not lying there. I am 100% telling the truth, because sometimes those guys be throwing hands, and I'll dodge a punch and be thinking like, dude, if that hit me, I would be waking up. So getting back into it, definitely been watching a lot. There was a really good UFC this past week. Unfortunately I missed it because I had this chess tournament, so I had to read everything and kind of like watch highlights here and there. Unfortunate for Kamaru Usman, and I mean this is kind of just the sad part about sports and just competition. Like, this man's career kind of went 2 directions. He had like 2 minutes left in a championship fight to become maybe the greatest of all time, the greatest welterweight of all time, most title defenses. He beat the only guy that was supposed to beat him, or that had a chance of beating him after everyone else, and just one head kick. He took his foot off the gas. He was dominating. Honestly, if he pushed, maybe he could even finish him, because the guy was definitely tired and just ready to call it a day. But the guy landed a head kick, and it wasn't even like he got rocked. It was like, he's asleep. Like, talk about a Hail Mary. Like, you can't do that in football. You can't be down 2 quarters of football and score 1 touchdown that just wins the game. So that is something crazy and very unfortunate. He ended up Kamaru. So they had a rematch, Usman versus Leon Edwards, and from what it looked like, it was a very close fight. It went to the cards, and Leon got the dub. Are there some conspiracy theories here about they wanted Leon to win, that way they can make the next fight? Because if Kamaru wins, who knows what the next fight? And I think after that fight, no one wanted to see them fight a 4th time. I mean, I think it was a solid fight, but it wasn't something super electric and crazy. I could be wrong. Please don't quote me on this. Now, the fight before that, Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev, that was a sick fight. I watched the highlights for this twice because it was so sick. And something that's really cool, and shout out to Justin Gaethje, and I don't know about bigger, but shout out to Trevor Whitman, his coach. This guy has improved a million times. Like, if you watch him, the first couple of fights in the UFC, dude is just a brawler. Throwing hands, taking punches, throwing punches. Death's Door. He's on Death's Door. His opponent's on Death's Door. It's here, it's there. It's like you don't know what's happening. But this fight, and he fought probably either the best or one of the best stand-up strikers in that division in 155. Just an amazing Muay Thai fighter. Trains at Tiger Muay Thai. I think he's a striking coach too, from what I heard. And Justin was just so patient. And where he won this fight was in the inside. A lot of inside fighting and just uppercuts. Uppercuts were really the killer. And what really busted up Rafael's face after. Like, if you want to see a picture, like, look up Rafael Fiziev post Justin Gaethje. Man looks like he got hit by a truck. Like, it looks like a horror movie face where someone walks out of a house after being tortured for 5 hours. So, really cool to see the effect a good coach. And Trevor Whitman is a great coach. He trains Kamaru Usman, who is the number one. He lost, but the number one fighter. He trains Gaethje. He trains Rose Namajunas. He trains some other people too that I know. I mean, those are the big three, all kind of UFC champions in their regard. I guess Gaethje but they've all fought for titles. And you can definitely see the improvements that these fighters have made, especially Justin. Just seeing someone go from so reckless and wild to someone so patient, measured, and even the way he was talking about the fight after, he was like, you win the fight by winning the feet, by taking space. I was like, man, this guy's talking technical. Never in a million years, but I think Justin Gaethje is like a technical, I don't know about tactician, but striking artist almost. So that's really cool to see. Once again, nothing super crazy this week, jiu-jitsu, boxing. I'm sure next week you'll have all the fun stories of how I'm broken inside, outside, and mentally. But last things I want to talk about for the fighting part is, in a street fight, would you want to go to the ground or stay on the feet? Because one of my friends asked me this, and for sure, if I knew the guy was really bad on the feet, I would take him to the feet. But there is the risk of taking someone to the feet, and they're actually good. There's a risk where I've never done jiu-jitsu with striking, so I'm sure if I was on top, if I was mounted someone, if I had taken their back and had like a rear naked choke in, no problem. Of course, I'm going to go to the ground. But you run the risk of hitting pavement. You run the risk of hurting your knees. Like, never try to go for a single leg or shoot a takedown when you're on cement. I think I did that, and the next day I was like, wow, that hurt. So be careful with that. And also, dude, you just don't want to get hit in the head or your head hit. Now, if you're fighting someone, the next question is, do I stay on the feet? So 100%, if you're in a street fight, kick the person. And make it seem like you're going to throw hands. Don't get in this like wide stance where you're trying to like feint kicks and throw kicks. In a street fight, unless you're fighting a real fighter, and even then they're not going to take you seriously, I would try to go in a boxing stance, or I guess like a Muay Thai stance, just high guard, and then either open with a kick or start with a jab, start with a small combination, and then throw a kick. Because people won't expect it. And then if you throw a kick and you know how to kick, you throw it well, now you're going to put a huge seed of doubt into their head, where it's like, should I be fighting this guy? Is this guy a trained martial artist? He's throwing kicks. What else does this guy know? I mean, I would hope that he would look at my stance and think I can fight too. But I really think throwing a kick, and if it really came to it, honestly, no shame about it, I would kick someone in the nuts. Like, if we're fighting for our lives, I mean, I'm willing to take the frowned upon of kicking someone in the nuts as opposed to being dead or getting my ass beat in front of a bunch of people. So really try to think about, and this is why, and this is going to segue perfectly, which I keep saying, but if you're in a street fight, be super careful. Like, there's so many factors, and for all you know, this guy could kill you, right? So you got to factor that in. And this is why, for the most part, I tell everyone, and I tell myself this, and I've never been in a fight, so I'm not going to say I should tell myself this more, but avoid fights if you can. Use your words. Be the bigger person. Tell them, like, hey, you're tough, dude. Go have fun. Like, they really got to disrespect you or have some kind of threat where you're ready to fight. And by all means, if they threaten you, if they challenge you, if they're talking nonstop, like, hold your ground. But if that means being the bigger person and walking away and living to fight another day, or like letting this person feel like they're a tough guy, I think go for it. It's not worth it. Now, if you're in school, there's no threat of death for the most part. So you can be a little bit more cavalier with, if they're disrespecting you, yeah, you can throw hands. You don't have to worry about, and probably no kicking in the nuts there too. So that is my take on a street fight. I would throw kicks, definitely elbows, definitely knees, because also hitting someone with your bare knuckles is gonna hurt. Like you could probably break your hand for punching someone in the head so many times. So use your elbows, use your kicks, use your other weapons, because they're also not gonna see it coming, especially if they're an untrained fighter. They're gonna be looking for a 1-2 and a hook. That's it. That's all that they think is possible. So change that perspective in their head. And the last thing that I want to say, and probably is a whole problem with my vacation mode, is training is great and I enjoy it and it's amazing, but you get really tired, and like when you've taken a couple days off, you have this bigger reluctance to be like, all right, well, once I start, it's not going to stop. I'm going to go do 3 hours. I'm going to come back. Now I'm going to go tomorrow. I'm going to go the day after. So I've definitely been fighting this a little bit, but I've done everything. The to-do list is pretty much finished. So I'm ready to go back to training tomorrow. It is 4 a.m., so we're going to just make the most of what we can. If I can get there at 10, if I can even get there at 12, I'll take it, honestly. Let's finish this podcast and then figure out what to do from there. And this here's another thing of the curse of knowing what you have to do. It's like, well, if I just go to the gym 4 days a week, do my cardio class, lift, workout, I'm gonna look amazing. And then you just tell yourself, I'll just do it next week. And you tell yourself, well, I'll just do it tomorrow. I'll do it the week after. And it becomes this rut. Like if you were telling yourself, I want to go to the gym, do it tomorrow. Don't be like, all right, I'll do it the day after, or I'll do it the next week. Do it as soon as you can. The sooner you get back in, the happier you're going to be. Even today, I didn't want to run. I didn't want to work out. And after running, of course, I felt amazing. Like, who doesn't? Running is a good feeling. It's a human feeling. It's a natural feeling. It's what we were almost made to do. Just hunt and gather and be in the wild and run. And your body feels way better after. So I'm going to have to fight this urge tomorrow morning to stay in bed. And if you're listening to this, please pray for me. I hope I go to the gym. So yeah, that's the curse of training. Isn't like, yeah, the first couple of times, like the first month you train, you're like, wow, I'm a boxer, I can do this is amazing, this is cool. But now I've been doing it for 3, 4, 5 years now, and you just got to get back in there, get to work, and just sharpen your tools, get better at your craft, learn things, learn how you can get better. And I'm gonna be thrown to the fire tomorrow. All right, so that is the martial arts section. Lastly, I have life. And then that will be it for Fire and Ice. All right, so last part I want to talk about is just what's been happening in life that isn't really in these categories, but probably all of them are. So kind of a trend, I would say, I see in kids with parents and the way it translates to their chess is, in general, parents who do way too much for their kids, tiger moms, or just like, something really interesting is there's either tiger moms who are like, super like on your kid, like do this all the time, or there's these moms who like just like baby their kid too much, and they're like, you can do whatever you want, Angel. Do you want to play chess today? Do you want to do this today? Do you want to do that today? And what I see with these kids more often than not is they're very careless. And I think the reason behind this is, since they're given so much in life, since so much is taken care of, they don't really worry about losing things. They're not really worried about, they're like, if I lose a game, I'll be fine. Mom will make me food. She'll do this for me. I'll have everything taken care of. I'll just go play. Whatever. It's cool. And the reason I really want to talk about this is I think this is kind of how I was as a kid. Like, I had very supportive mom. I'd say too supportive of mom, where I didn't get to be an adult as fast as I would like to. And I don't want to ever tell people how to parent, because it's your kid. You got to do what you were taught to do, what you're raised to do, what feels right. But if you're being too much on your kid's going to be more careless. They're going to be less charismatic, less kind of like enthusiastic about everything. They're kind of just going to be like worn down. That's a great way to describe kind of how I felt in a lot of these situations. Just like, can I get a break? Can I go do something? I want to have fun. Can I have food? Can I go play some basketball? That's what happens when you're a bit too on. So I think balance is very important. Kind of the reverse. And this actually got me thinking, like my grandfather, who is a great, great chess player. When he was a kid, he didn't have parents. His dad fought in the war and I think worked for the YMCA, so he had to live with his uncles and aunts. And from the stories he told me, they weren't the best. And what was really interesting and how this translates to chess is when he played chess, he was the opposite of careless. He was so big on, if this happens, I must hold. I must defend. If I can win a pawn and hold, I will take it. Whatever life gives me, I will take it. I will make the most of it. I will not waste anything. So that's kind of the flip side of parents being too much. The kid's careless. If the parents are too little or non-existent, the kid cares. I'm not gonna say way too. Maybe I should just say like way too much about little things, just because I guess you don't have someone taking care of everything. You have this responsibility, and then you know what loss kind of feels like. You're like, if this goes, maybe it'll never come back. If I lose this game, life maybe will never be the same. And I mean, it sounds kind of traumatizing, but it's just something that I've seen with the way people play chess, the way people kind of just react in certain archetypes based off their parents, and the correlation between, or the type of I'm just honestly, I feel like I'm saying stupid words that are big and not making sense. Not the correlation, but the result of such ways the parents help the kids or taught the kids. They do one thing, and this is kind of the result of it, if that makes sense. Now, this is something I talked about in stand-up, and I'm just going to reiterate here, like, people asking way too many questions. And this is something that maybe I've seen it in stand-up, maybe I've seen it just being older and running this business and doing more things. Like, think about the questions before you ask, and think, do I already know the answer to this? Can I find the answer to this myself? This is a question this guy's going to want to answer. Is this a question that's important? That's another very important thing to say. Like, why am I asking this question? Am I just talking for the sake of talking? Am I just vomiting words so there's no dead silence? Like, silence is okay. If there's nothing good to talk about, just relax. Just, sit there, do your thing, whatever. Because another thing I hate is just going in circles again and again and again and be like, dude, we got it. We said it. This is the result. This is the decision we've made. Now let's move forward. I don't want to keep going in circles like, yeah, we should do this. It'd be cool to do this. Like, we should do that. Like, if you mean it, say it, do it, and let's find out how to do it. And that's why I think being specific is really, really good. Also, being specific to improve. Like, it's one thing to say, like, yeah, I just got to work hard and be better. It's another thing to say, well, I got to read 3 books and master these 3 openings, Roy Lopez, Dragon, and Najdorf. If you're way more specific, you know what you have to do, and you go and do it. If you just tell yourself, I have to be better at chess, well, you're like, well, I'll just be better at chess. And you almost tell yourself, well, I'll just tell myself I'm going to be better at chess, and that's all I got to do. Nah, you got to do stuff. You got to put in that work. You got to put in that road work. Fighters run 3 to 10 miles a day. That is a lot. And that is the kind of work that you got to put in. Like, if fighters are doing that, that's equivalent of doing like 30 minutes to an hour puzzles per day. And that's just the beginning of the day. The fighters, they spar, they watch tape, they drill, they work technique, they put in rounds, they go light, they go hard, they hit the bag, they work out. So this training, this like, I want to get better, it's not just a one kind of thing. or it's not like you just do this one thing. I learned this one opening and I'm good. It could be part of it, but generally there's a lot of parts from what I've seen, and you got to keep working on all those parts, because you don't know what you're going to be tested on when you play. Am I going to have to checkmate this guy? I'm going to have to get a rook upon endgame. I'm going to have to hold a worse endgame. I'm going to have to hold a worse position. Like, all these things they're out of your control. What you can control is being ready for those things. So I think that's very important. Phones are the worst. I feel like I talk about this all this time. This is the cause of my 20 questions per day of things that I have to deal with. Like, guys, like, just figure it out. I don't know, like, it's not that complicated is my answer to most of the questions. Or it's like, why are you asking this is my answer to the other half of the questions. And then every once in a while, I'm not going to say every once in a while, but yeah, of course there are important questions, or the things that you don't know and you're going to have to ask me, or I don't know, I'm going to have to ask someone. But I just want to say that I have started filtering my questions and filtering the things I said with, is this worth it? Is this worth the time? Is this information I actually need? Is this information I can find myself and I don't have to ask? Because I'm busy. I understand how busy other people are. No one here is trying to waste time. We're trying to get in, get out, do our thing, get better, make money, and get results. So, specificity and efficiency, super important. Tournament logistics. I don't know why I put this. Next thing though is cleaning. So yeah, at least the last day of my little vacation, I ended up cleaning everything, cleaning the house. I love to clean. I think cleaning is great because you get to see progress. These are really random things I'm talking about to end this. I mean, I guess it's 4 a.m. and I've been talking for an hour and a half, so you're gonna get some sputtering at the end. So let me leave it at some cool things. So Spotify radio has almost changed my life. Like, we all have these playlists where we're like, our same songs, listen to 3 to 4 on rotate, and then we get tired of them, we find another 3 to 4, or we go back in our playlist and listen to another 3 and 4, and like, okay, these are my songs for this week. Why am I not exploring more music? Like, I tell myself that, there's no good music, there's no more of this. If you use Spotify radio, if you just pick a song that you like and put on the radio, it does a really good job of finding similar songs, finding similar bands, and discovering bands that are similar, that you haven't heard of, that you love. Like, for me this week, Blue Stones, their songs are amazing. They're like rock and roll, but they're not too hard, and they're not, some of their songs are more chill, some of their songs are the right amount of chill. And then another thing that I love about is their guitar is so good. The guitarist, like, really if I ever met these guys, I would tell them, let your guitarist off the leash. This guy can play. This guy, give him more solos, let him play more. Like, your songs are great. And I think what's really cool about Blue Stones is they kind of like build up to like solos. Their music is like slow build. It gets better and better and better. And then they end it with the solo, or just like the singer kind of syncs with his heart. And I just love this increasing momentum where it culminates until now something explodes or something is fire, to say it like the kids do. So Blue Stones is great. There's a song, Johnny Wants to Fight by Bad Flower, another just amazing song. I love the switch of going from high energy fast to abrupt, but then to almost a standstill pace, and then just singing from the heart or singing emotional words, and then going back fast. I love the change in pace. It's something that I don't know about other people, but something that I am a huge fan of. And then Friday Pilots Club, they have a song, End of This. Instrumentally, this might be the greatest song I've ever heard. The vocals are good, but the instrumental is just so catchy, so good. But definitely, Friday Pilots Club, and it's not just one song, they have a bunch of songs. So shout out to Spotify Radio, and shout out to Spotify for having this podcast, and hopefully one day paying me $1 or some type of money to make this podcast every week or every 2 weeks. So I'm a huge fan. And the way to close is there are levels to it. I was talking to a tattoo guy today. He said it took about 5 years for him to really kind of come to his own and know what he's doing. For stand-up, it's been said it takes about 10 years before you really come to your own. For chess, I've heard the number 10,000 hours. I don't know about year-wise because I don't know, it's like some kids go fast, some people go slow, but in general, like I would say somewhere between 10,000 hours or something would be what you want to do. And that applies to everything. Music, art, sports, cooking, work, relationships. Like, it's gonna take some time. You just gotta control what you control, improve, and be conscious about it. And if the last thing, and I think this is how I'm gonna close, or no, this is how I know I'm gonna close, write stuff down. Good stuff will happen if you write stuff down. Alright, that's it, guys. It's 4:04 a.m. That is ATL. Peace.